Hey, what's up, everybody? Hoping you're having a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in and checking out the channel. And so this week, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to go over all of the functionality and settings of the Ranger Raptor. And also, I wanted to go over setting up and configuring the Raptor button on your steering wheel. So for myself, I have it configured one way for most cases for my daily driving and whatnot. And then since we're going to the Texas Raptor Run coming up here in a few weeks, I wanted to go ahead and configure it for that event and how I think we might be using it there. So first, let's go through all of the settings and how to set up and how I set up my truck for personal use. So starting over here, we have your seat. We have your door locks. First, lock, unlock, lock, and then 1 through 3 for your seat memory function. So for the most part, I have 1 set for my daily driving, getting around town to and from work. I have 2 configured for when I'm off-roading, wheeling, stuff like that. I like to sit a little bit higher and a little bit closer. And then 3 is saved for the wife whenever she's driving the truck. She has it set up for how she likes to have it. And that includes where the seats are and everything like that. And then down here in the door, we have window lock and unlock up here on the left. And then we have, this one here, I don't know if you can see it, the picture of the mirrors actually folds. If you press it, it will fold in and out the mirrors. So currently I have that configured so that whenever I lock the vehicle, they go ahead and move in. I would advise, if you live in an area where there's a lot of snow, cold climates, and deal with a lot of freezing, I would probably leave that off, so that if they get frozen one way or the other, whenever you use it, it's not binding and trying to either open or close while frozen stuck. That will help with the longevity overall. But we can get into that whenever we get into the settings. And the next to that is the window lock. For the most part, I don't really use it. Maybe if you have for pets, dogs, kids, stuff like that, and you don't want them rolling up and down the window and the back seat, you can do that. I would imagine if you're turning this on, if you have kids, you probably also have the door child safety locks, door locks in the back, so they can't, open the door. And then below that, you have the touchpad to adjust your mirrors. So driver's side, passenger side, or left and right, depending on where you are in the world, and if you're left-hand drive or right-hand drive. Let me go ahead and turn off the AC. The weather is about perfect for Texas right now. And then you have your standard window controls. For the drivers, you can press and they will automatically roll up and down. For the rears, they don't, so you have to hold them up or down to get them to go all the way up or down. I'm not sure if it's different for anybody else in a different part of the world. And then below that, in the seat, you have your standard electronic seat controllers, forward, backwards, up, down, and then recline. And then there's also some lumbar support. Then over here, you have your lighting controls. This is to turn on the light for your truck bed. And then manual controls for your lighting. For the most part, it just lives in automatic. And then if you press down, you can turn on and off your fog lights when the lights are on. And then here is to adjust the brightness of your gauge cluster. I have all of this as automatic. It's fine where it's at. I haven't really had to mess with it too much. Alright, then you have your standard, turn signal, and also high beam. I used to have automatic high beam turn on, but I've since turned it off. I find that it kind of false turns on more often than not. And then here we have the windshield wiper controls. If you don't know, we have auto sensing windshield wipers. So for the most part, once you've turned them on, you can adjust this to up and down to adjust how high the sensor or sensitivity is for the rain sensing, whatnot, and then you can manually all the way up adjust the speed of the windshield wipers. So they do come in handy for the most part. When it's raining, if I don't already have them on, I'll turn them on and then just kind of leave and forget about it. Once it stops raining, they'll just automatically stop, and they'll pretty much just live there until the next time it rains or something, like, they're automatic, so it's very handy. And then you have your two flappy paddles for adjusting your gears up and down if you're doing that manually. They do come in handy when off-road and rock crawling. You can just stay in a gear. And then down here we have our steering wheel controls. There's a lot going on both sides of the steering wheel. So here you have your cruise control. Down here is the speed limiter. So you can, like, if you don't want to go over the speed limit, you can kind of just hit the limiter and it'll alert you if you're going whatever set speed limit you have it at. And then here you can manually adjust the speed that you're going, either up or down, and you can also pause and resume by pressing on the button. This button adjusts the distance in which the automatic cruise control, so it goes 1 through 4, and the numbers indicate the car distance you are. So 1 would be your 1 car length behind the person in front of you, 4 being 4 cars in front of the next person. And then another one that comes in handy is the lane keep assist. So once you have adaptive cruise control on and lane keep assist, you can cruise around pretty easily without needing much effort. I think there's a hack I'm looking and researching, so that it's almost self-driving, but we'll get into that in another video. And then down here you can adjust your volume for your radio, down, up, and you can press and hold this to engage the AI or speak to talk. So if you're on iPhone, this would engage Siri, and if you're on Android Auto, this would engage, what's the new one now for Google? I think it's Gemini. Yeah. Alright, and then on this side of the steering wheel, this steering wheel button will let you adjust for the resistance in the steering wheel. Typically I either have it in normal or in comfort. In comfort, it just makes it a little bit easier to turn the steering wheel, and then in sport mode it makes it a little bit stiffer, a little bit tighter, like a sports car would be. And then you have your suspension, normal for a good kind of plush, comfy ride. Then there's sport mode, which is a little bit tighter, and you're going to feel the bumps in the road a little bit more. And then after that would be Baja mode, which would be it adjusting for more jumps and more rough terrain. Don't really use that much in my daily driving. We did use it when we were in Big Bend, going up and down and doing some of the trails. And then right below that is your exhaust. Your exhaust modes, you have quiet, which would be all the way closed. Normal, I think it's just slightly open. Sport is open a little bit more, and then Baja, I believe, is all the way wide open, and you'll get a little alert that says for off-road use only. and then you can just hit OK to disregard that. And then you have track previous, go back, and then the next track, and then also allows you to answer and hang up the phone. And then here is your menu button. The menu lets you configure and go through the different menus that you have in your gauge cluster, as far as looking at your fuel, off-road modes, and what's going on, the navigation. Your phone you can control and look through the contacts and then call out. Audio would be what's currently playing, and then configuring the settings in there. And then vehicle maintenance, you would see your tire pressure and oil life, engine information, how long the engine's been running, and how many hours it's been idle. So there's a lot of good information in there. And then you have my view, which I typically use the most. So you can also configure my view while you're in it. And then, so I don't have both trips, just the main one. Tire pressure, your Raptor status, which you have on and off, and then we'll go through it a little bit and configure that. And then you can have two main gauges, and you can configure what you want. What I currently have is air fuel ratio and a boost gauge, and then a ton of other information is for the vehicle itself. And you can configure all of this individually in the settings. Just hold down OK, and it lets you turn on and off what screens you want to have up. And you can play with this at your leisure and figure out how you want to get it all configured for your screens. But for the most part, this is where I live. Air fuel ratio and boost. And that pretty much concludes the steering wheel. And then we'll get over to all the settings and the radio and everything you can configure a little bit. But first, let's go through what we have down here for hard buttons. So you'll notice that there are AC controls both in the screen and below the screen. You can control the temperature by touching the screen and also by dial. Alright, press button, turn off. You can also do it in the screen. I like this, being able to manually control the AC quickly. I wish they also gave us buttons to enable the front and rear locker quickly, but that's not really the case. Let me see if I can turn just the accessory. Alright, cool. Don't need to have the engine running the entire time. And then it also gives you manual controls for the radio. Press down to power on and off the radio, and then for volume controls. And you also have AC controls, dual AC controls for the passenger side as well. So I find that very handy. I like tactile controls, manual controls. But with a giant screen, it is also nice to have options. And then below that, in the center, you have your gear shift select. It is different than what you will find in the Lariat, XL, and XLT. Press the button, and you grab the button at the top to release and change. And then you can also use buttons on the side here to manual. You press this, and that will engage manual mode for shifting, and then you can use the paddle shifters to go through the gears. And then you have an electronic parking brake. Pull up to engage, press down, hold the brake, and press down to disengage. And then right below that is your off-road buttons. So for the off-road buttons and modes, this is to help park. This is parking assistance. You can press this down and it'll help guide you into your parking space. I really haven't used this much. I definitely need to use it more. Once I get into a case where I will be using it, then I will definitely make a video in going over how to use that. This button turns off your traction control. In a lot of cases, if you're going through sand and some other stuff, you just want to be able to just wide open throttle and get out of whatever you're in without traction control kicking in. So you'll turn that off here. This is a button I'm sure a lot of you use. This is to turn off the auto start stop for the vehicle. It's one of the first things I hit. Typically, I get in the car, put on my seatbelt, and right after that, fingers right there, just go ahead and hit that button and turn that off. And then this is your off-road button. If you hit this right away, it pretty much enables off-road. It'll bring up a bunch of screens on your gauge cluster and on the center console, and it shows where you can turn on your front locker, your rear locker, and then it will show your this one will show your angles, your pitch and yaw and whatnot. And then this comes in handy if you're going over like hills and whatnot. You kind of point at the sky and you can't see what's in front of you. This will give you a good view of the ground and the tracks for your tires. So it comes in really handy. And then right next to that is your drive modes. So for the most part, daily driving, I stay in 2 high. I don't use the 4 auto or 4 high. In 2 high, there's just less rolling resistance, less mechanical loss with having to engage all 4 wheels. But if if it's raining, you're off-roading, definitely engage 4 high, 4 auto, 4 low if you're rock crawling and whatnot. We did use that when we were going up Christmas Mountain. And there's a convenient tow haul button here if you're towing or hauling a load or anything like that, a trailer. And then you can use this dial to engage your different drive modes. So here, let's start the truck. So in normal drive modes, once you're in the vehicle, you always be in normal. And if you rotate left, you'll see down below your sport mode. You'll notice the truck also changes colors as well. See, so it's blue for slippery. It's a black truck for towing. It's a black truck for sport mode. Blue truck for normal. Off-road is that desert tan, I believe is the color. Baja is orange or yellow. I haven't seen that available in any of the colors. Maybe that's a color for the future, coming in the future. And rock crawling, maybe, I think that might be shelter green possibly for rock crawl. But you'll also notice that the colors, see if I can get you back to the radio. See, there's not a radio connected, so let's just play the radio station so I can show you. You'll see how the dial, the color is orange. So notice when I change from modes, I'm going to go to normal mode. And so you remember the normal mode was blue. See, everything's shifting. It's done shifting. Now it's back to normal. Now see, the color of the bar is blue now. So it changes the theme color for the entire console and everything that's going on as well. So your cluster changes color. And then let me go to sport mode. You'll see that changed to a black truck early in sport mode. and now the color of the bar is also black. So just some things to notice that I noticed while you're in the different modes driving around. Let me know in the comments if you guys have noticed any of these too, or if you noticed any other things that change while you're also going through the colors or through the different drive modes. So that pretty much covers the center console over. For the passenger side, there's not much. There's just lock and unlock, the window controls, and then also there are the electronic seat controls. You can go forward, backwards, up and down, recline, and there's also lumbar support. And if you didn't know, there's a pocket here. I'm not sure if all of the Ranger models come with it. If your Ranger model didn't come with a pocket, let me know in the comments. So you'll see I got all the mounts up for the GoPro cameras and phones in the previous video. If you didn't check out that video, don't forget to subscribe. So let's go ahead and go through, let's connect my phone. Show you a few things. Alright, so the cameras. So first things first, now that I have my phone connected, this will work with either Android or iPhone. Entertainment, you'll see I have the YouTube app. Let me know if you guys have this as well. I've already signed in. Or maybe I haven't. Alright, check that out. So, you see I'm watching YouTube videos on the truck screen. I didn't download any apps. This was just an option in my entertainment section of my truck. This also works in the Maverick trimmer as well, or Maverick. I think I showed a video about that too. Quick comparison, side-by-side comparison. We take some measurements, audio, wheelbase, height, seat dimensions, stuff like that. And then maybe sit down and my wife could tell you a little bit about a long-term review. Just quality. 15,000 miles, and she just bump it up to 4K. See how that looks. Probably need better data coverage. I don't know if it's using the iPhone or... There you go. Looks pretty good. You have to excuse the wind. I don't know if you can tell. So that's a feature. So I just went here to the dots. And then in entertainment, there's the YouTube app. And back here, got a sketchbook. Zone lighting would be here if you're camping and outdoors. Hit that and you can turn on all of the different lights around you if you're in the outdoors. Comes in handy. If you're towing, or if you tow a lot, you can program and add your trailer, and this helps with backing up the trailer It has some AI or something built in that helps. You can also go through a checklist. It helps you get it all set up and make sure that the lights and everything are working. Android Auto CarPlay. I have found that with Android Auto, it will show turn-by-turn directions in the gauge cluster when I'm using Google Play and Waze, which is what I predominantly use, but not with the iPhone. For the iPhone, for it to show in the gauge cluster, you've got to use Apple Maps, and quite frankly, I just don't use Apple Maps that often. So for the most part, I use Android Auto, my S23 for the most part, hooked up to here. And then here's where you can get to your radio, navigation, and media. I think for most users, you're just going to be using CarPlay or Android Auto for the most part. And you'll be looking at a screen similar to this. That pretty much covers this section. If you guys have any questions about this, any of this, please drop a question in the comments, and I'll be more than glad to answer any questions. But let's go ahead and go through this. This is going to take some time. There's a lot to go through. The last video we did for the Maverick, I think that went over an hour or right around an hour or something like that. So yeah. So the first screen you're going to get to in the settings is controls. So for the most part, we don't really use this much. Auto hold. Let's see, you can always hit I, continues to hold the vehicle stationary after you come to a stop. So for the Maverick, this was a button that was directly on the center console that you could hit. And so what this does is whenever you come to a stop, like say a red light, it will just stay stopped. You can let go of the brake and relax your leg, and you don't have to hold down the brake pedal to stay stationary. And it won't leave and move until you touch the accelerator and go. So this is very handy in like traffic. You know, if you're sitting in traffic for a long time, turn this on so you don't have to apply pressure to the brake pedal the entire time to stay stopped. I don't use this much. Off-road, this just enables the off-road screen. This is a good place if you're off-roading. I would come in here and immediately turn off the parking sensors so it's not constantly screaming at you while you're off-roading. This is also the screen where you would turn on and off your front locker and your rear locker. It can be kind of a pain sometimes to find where it's at, but if you know to hit the off-road button, it'll just take you immediately to the screen where you can turn on and off your lockers. And that pretty much covers the controls. Well, then there's also the comp screen. So I guess that comes in handy if maybe you're sleeping in the truck or on long drives, if you don't want a bright screen or a screen just keeping your passengers up, you can use this screen. I don't use it very often. And then here it's your sound controls. Your tone settings, treble, mid-range, bass, and then you control your balance and fade. The B&O system is okay. It leaves a lot to be desired for. I'm sure for most it's good enough. I spent my early 20s through 30s, or most of my 20s and 30s, installing car audio, and then eventually parlayed that into home audio and automation. So I'm a bit of an audiophile. I think there's a lot to be desired in the low end and mid range. It's just muddy overall in general, to be honest with you. Speed compensating, volume. So this is where you would change the setting. The faster you go, the louder the volume will adjust depending on speed. So if you have it on low, it's not going to adjust as much, and if you have it on high, it's going to kick the volume up a lot higher than it would at like low. So it just depends on how you just depends on how you like. I like to keep it at medium, so as I'm driving I get a balance, and when I'm stopped there's not a lot of road noise and it sounds decent. Volume is decent. I wouldn't say that it sounds decent. In here, for the most part, I keep it in stereo mode. The surround mode, it's car audio. I would prefer it was just 2.1, just left, right, and sub. The surround, it just sounds weird. And I think they also pipe in the exhaust tones through the radio as well. And for myself, it just sounds strange. So I keep that at stereo. And that pretty much covers the audio section, sound section. Phoneless, this is where you would add your phones and then toggle between your different devices. So I have my iPhone currently connected. What I usually have connected is my S23 and my wife's phone whenever she drives. And let's get to the driver assistance. Here you can also again turn on and off auto hold. That's, once you come to a stop you can get off of the brake. Adaptive cruise control you can turn on and off if you don't use it. Sorry, let's get back there again. I love adaptive cruise control. I pretty much have it set to 1 car length for the most part with lane centering. Sometimes it can feel like you're just kind of bouncing back and forth in the lanes and the steering wheel is kind of herky-jerky. And in those cases, I will turn it off. It's a bit hectic. I will also turn off lane centering. You can do that from the steering wheel control. Speed sign recognition. This is fantastic. What this will do is while you're cruising along with adaptive cruise control, it'll read the speed signs that are up there and adjust automatically your cruise control speed to the speed signs. So if you're cruising along in your area and the speed limit's 75, it'll just roll 75, and then you get into a town and it drops down to 50. Your cruise control will automatically drop down and adjust to 50 miles an hour. And then there's also a built-in tolerance. So for my tolerance, I like to go 5 over the posted speed limit. So you can go ahead and adjust that. You can also adjust it so that it goes 5 under or however much below. I keep touching the screen. So you can go down as far down as 20 below the posted speed limit and as much as 20 above the posted speed limit. I'm going to keep it reasonable and just go 5 over the posted speed limit. So it's going to, once you have speed sign recognition on, it'll automatically recognize the freeway you're on is only 65 miles per hour, and with the 5-mile tolerance, it'll set the adaptive cruise control speed limit to 70 miles an hour. That's fantastic. Comes in very handy for long road trips. Speed limit assist. You can pretty much turn this on the steering wheel. You hit limiter, and it will give you a warning or whatever you want to do. For myself, I'm in control over it most of the time, so I don't have a warning. But with the intelligent speed limiter, it'll automatically adjust the speed based on the posted speed limit. And then you can also have a tolerance on that as well to limit your speed. So, but if you're using adaptive cruise control, you wouldn't really use that. Lane keep assist. If I'm driving not using adaptive cruise control, I don't have lane keeping assist on. I have it off. But if I'm using adaptive cruise control, then I'll have lane keeping assist on, and then I can just relax a little bit, keep my foot on the pedal, brake pedal, and then keep my hands on the steering wheel. And then also it'll let you know, if it's going to keep you in the lane, and also let you know an alert like, hey, I'm doing a thing. And then also you can change the intensity of the alert, like how strong it shakes the steering wheel and vibrates the steering wheel whenever there's an alert. And then right below that, the next thing is your rear view camera delay. So what that does is, if you're backing up, and once you're done backing up and you're now going to pull forward, it's going to leave that rear view camera on just for a little bit longer, so you know you're pulling away safely and you're not leaving anything behind or anything like that. So I leave that on. It comes in handy. Blind spot information system, that lets you know if there's anything in your blind spot. There's a little indicator on both the mirrors, side view mirrors, and it'll just light up orange to let you know there's a vehicle in the area in your blind spot. Trailer side view. Let's see. Trailer side view. I don't really tow much, so I'm not sure what that is, but definitely there's an information button. You can just hit that and read what's going on. So with the trailer side view, when the turn signal is on, it shows the corresponding area alongside the vehicle and trailer to provide better visibility during a lane change. Okay, so when you turn on with this on and you turn on your turn signal, it's going to show that side camera so that when you're turning, you have a good clear view that you're not going to hit anything, which is handy when you're towing. Parking aid sensors, this lets you know frontwards and backwards if you're getting close to hitting anything when you're parking, backing in and pulling forward. That's handy. Cross traffic alert is fantastic. I wish I had this in the past. I was backing out of a parking spot at the local mall when I was younger, and some girl came through thinking that she could squeeze past me while I was backing up, and I ended up backing into her, and was blamed at fault because I was the one backing out, even though she was the one trying to squeeze through. But anyways, this will let you know and give you an alert if while you're backing up any traffic is coming. For the most part, when I'm getting into a parking spot, I will always back into a parking spot, because I know when I'm backing into a parking spot, it's a controlled, there's not a bunch of stuff going backwards and going across. It's a parking spot. But when you're backing out of a parking spot, there's too many variables. There's cars going back and forth, people walking. So I always, if it's available, will back into a parking spot so that when I'm leaving, I can just pull out. But that does come in handy for whenever you're not able to back into a parking spot. Reverse brake assist. If you're backing up and there's something that you may hit, it'll apply the brakes for you. So this has gotten me a couple of times backing out in the morning. I'm backing up along these bushes, and sometimes if I'm close, it'll just stop me and hit the brakes and alert me and says, hey, you're too close, even though I know I'm not going to hit the bushes. So it can be good and bad, but it does help. And driver alert lets you know if you're paying attention. So if you don't have your eyes on the road, if you're falling asleep, turning this on will alert you, vibrate the steering wheel, and do some flashing on the screen to let you know to pay attention and wake up. Alright, so that covers everything under driver's assistance. Now we'll do vehicle settings. So vehicle settings. This one is good if you're, overlanding, off-roading, 30-minute max idle. We're not diesels. It's a gasoline engine, so we can't idle for too long. Rear occupant alert. This is good if you have kids. Let me get back there. Vehicle settings. Rear occupant alert. This will alert on the horn and on the cluster to let you know to check the back seat before getting out and leaving. I don't have kids, so that's off for me. Key detection alert. This will honk the truck if you get out with the vehicle still running to let you know, like, hey, the vehicle's still running. We camp and overland a lot, so I turn that off so that sometimes, the wife and maybe the cats or the animals are in the vehicle and I'm going to go do something. I don't need it to alert and beep the entire time that I'm gone, so that's off. Easy entry and exit. I love this. So as soon as you're parked somewhere and you turn off the vehicles, the driver's seat automatically scoots all the way back. And this allows you to get out of the vehicle easily and then back into it the next time easily. And then once you hit the start button, it'll pull the seat forward and move you up into your driving position. So I always have this on, but whenever we have the vehicle packed down for a camping trip or something, I will leave that off because sometimes we will pack the back seats down and I don't want anything getting crushed or something when I get out and it rolling the seat back. So typically I'll have the seat in my driving position and then I'll turn it off just so it makes more room to pack behind the seats or the vehicle anywhere else. Onboard modem serial number. This would be if you were used to take it to AT&T if you wanted to turn on the connectivity, like if you wanted to sign up for a data plan on the vehicle. I typically don't. Nowadays with the Starlink, I really don't see a need for cellular service in the vehicle, stuff like that. Remote start setup. I use remote start. I use the Ford Pass app and I have it programmed to remote start 5 minutes before leaving for work for the days that we're in the office. Auto climate control. So with the Maverick, using the Ford Pass app, I have found that you can adjust the thermostat for the climate control. You can turn on and off the seat heater and the steering wheel heater. So in the Maverick, I have it in last setting because in some cases I can adjust it either or. I haven't been able to do that for the Ranger Raptor yet, so I have it currently on auto. So if it's cold out, it'll turn on the heat, and if it's hot out, it'll turn on the AC. And then the steering wheel also is on auto until the Ford Pass app changes and I'm able to turn those on and off as I want or as needed. But for now, we're just going to leave it on auto. If it's hot out, it won't turn on the seat heaters, but if it's cold, it will turn on the seat heaters. And I have it currently set for the longest duration for the remote start, 15 minutes. So it'll run for 15 minutes, and if it goes past that, it'll automatically turn off. And to the windows, you have the ability to turn on remote open and close. So if you didn't know this, you can use the remotes to automatically open and close the windows for the vehicle whenever you're away from it. So to do that, you would double tap open. So you press once and press open the second time and hold. And on the second hold, when you hold it, it will roll down the windows until you let go of the button. And then to close, you double tap, or you tap once and then press again and hold for the lock button, and that will roll up the windows and close them. So I have those on, enabled. A lot of times I forget that's even an option, and I'm sure a lot of you don't even know that's an option, but go out there, turn it on, and play with it a little bit, and it does come in handy. It's almost like for Toyotas, the back hatch. I love that the 4Runner back hatch the glass will go up and down, and for the Tundras, for the crew cabs, the back glass will also go up and down. That's unfortunate they got away from the V8s, and the twin turbo V6s are a complete dumpster fire right now for Toyota. That's another story. For another setting, we have the wipers. You have the courtesy wipe, so that comes in handy whenever you pull the lever to use it to clean the windows. It'll spray, wipe a few times, and then after a while do one more wipe just to get any remaining residuals. So a lot of you guys, I'm sure you know, anytime you've cleaned, you've used the wiper cleaner. It'll wipe a few times, and whenever it's done, there's always a little bit left. That courtesy wipe is that last one that gets it. And then rain sensing. So you can pretty much just leave the lever for the windshield wiper on, and automatically, whenever the camera senses that there's rain, it'll automatically just start going. And that comes in handy. For the most part, I forget that the lever is even on, and whenever it rains, it just starts going. Quiet start, that comes in handy. I was using this when the neighbor had their newborn baby, so I had that on. You can pretty much have it set, and it also comes in handy when you're at like campsites. So if you have it on, this is what I currently have it. So from between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m., if the vehicle starts, start it with the exhaust completely closed so that it doesn't make too much noise. So this is depending on what you would set it at. So this is how it reads. From 10 p.m., start at 10 p.m. So between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m., it starts in quiet mode. If you start the truck outside before 10 p.m. and after 8 a.m., it'll start in the normal exhaust mode. But their kid's older now, so I don't really use that. But if you're rolling up to a campsite or you're staying somewhere and you don't want to disturb your neighbors, that comes in handy. Lighting. Auto high beam. I used to have that on. If I'm rolling long road trips or I'm traveling on the road, I will enable that. So basically, if it's pitch black and the vehicle doesn't see another set of headlights or brake lights, it'll automatically turn on the high beams. And then whenever it sees an oncoming vehicle with headlights on, or you coming up on a vehicle and it sees brake lights, it'll automatically turn off the high beams. Comes in handy. I leave work too early in the mornings that sometimes it enables the high beams in the neighborhoods, and I don't want it to wake anybody up with the high beams, so I went ahead and turned that off. But once I hit the road for long stretches of highway, it definitely comes on. Daytime running lamps, usually I have that off. I know a lot of people are changing their daytime running lamps to the amber, so it matches the other Raptor. The F-150 Raptor and the Bronco Raptor have amber daytime running lamps. And quite frankly, for myself, it wouldn't matter either way. For the most part, I don't leave daytime running lamps on. Sometimes I leave it on. It just depends on what case. I'm not sure where I would use it. Maybe if I was off-roading and it was kind of dusty, I would leave them on, just so that anybody could see me through the dust. But that's what chase lights are for. Alright, next is locks. So auto unlock, that is automatically unlocks when you get to a stop and you stop the vehicle and you open the driver's door, then it will automatically unlock all the doors. And then if you get out of the vehicle and you arm and lock the vehicle, and if, say, one of the doors isn't closed completely and it doesn't arm and lock all of the vehicles, then it'll mislock chirp. So it'll let you know, like, hey, I didn't lock all the doors yet, so come back and make sure all the doors are closed, and then we can lock all the doors. And it gives you an audible feedback whenever you lock the doors. You can turn that off if you want to be silent, or I don't know how silent, but it's just less audible. And so for myself, remote unlock, once I unlock, the first time I press the key unlock, it only unlocks the driver's door. If I want to unlock all of the doors, I'll double press the unlock button and unlocks them all. Or you can turn it on to where the first unlock button press will unlock all of the doors. This would be handy if you have kids and everybody's getting in and out the vehicle at once. But for women, I would suggest only doing the driver's door. And if you're going in and out of parking garages by yourself, only doing the driver's door. That way you can get, you know that when you unlock the door and get in and out the vehicle, it's only your door that's unlocked. Nobody else can get in the vehicle with you. Key free. allows you to walk up to the vehicle and have the key fob in your pocket, and you can touch the outside door lock and it'll automatically unlock the vehicle. And also, if you're leaving the vehicle and the key fob's in your pocket and you don't want to hit the button, you can also touch on the door handle and it'll lock the door locks. That comes in handy, without fidgeting and fishing for women, not having to dig the keys out of your purse. Mirrors. This is where you auto fold. So this is where I mentioned earlier, if you live in cold climates and it freezes a lot, you may want to turn this off so that if it's frozen, in one position or the other, it's not trying to open or close while frozen and strip out any gears, and it will prolong the longevity. Here, where it doesn't, in Texas, it doesn't freeze hardly ever. I went ahead and leave this enabled so that I take up less space in parking spaces and nobody bumps into them. And then here is where you would program your door keypad code. You would find that if you remove this panel, you're going to see where your fuse block is. And in that fuse block, there is a white card that has the keypad, the factory keypad code that came with it. You can program it in there. Once you add that, then you can change it to whatever you want, something different. And that concludes the vehicle settings and everything you would configure in there. And then let's hop over to the general settings. General settings are things like the language you're speaking. I have it in English, the temperature unit, whether it's Fahrenheit or Celsius. Here we're using Fahrenheit, and then unit of measure, whether, kilometers, liters. We're using miles and miles per gallon, and whether unit of measurement for pressure, bar, or PSI. Touchscreen beep, I have that off. I don't need to hear it every time it beeps. And then you can also get information about the software version you're running and any of your IDs if you want to sign up for Sirius XM and stuff like that. And then you can also reset all your settings here. You can also adjust your brightness. I just have it in the generic setting. I have the mode to go from light dark to auto. So during the day it's in this bright screen, and at night it goes into a dark mode like that. And currently I just have it in auto. And then you can also manually adjust your clock, but I currently have it to auto update, and since I've been in networking for so long, I prefer 24-hour mode. Ambient lighting, I have that off. You can have that on. Maybe if it allowed me to change the color of the ambient lighting, I might have it on. But currently it's an amber color, which is fine. I just don't have much use for it when we're out camping and we're trying to keep it as dark as possible. And I think that pretty much covers... Oh, there's also 911 assist. So if you're in an emergency, it will automatically call 911 from whatever device is connected to the vehicle through CarPlay or Android Auto, which comes in handy. Might as well just leave that on. And that will conclude general settings. And next we have connectivity. Connectivity covers your Wi-Fi, built-in cellular, connected vehicle features. So vehicle connectivity, I should turn off my privacy settings. I usually turn all of this off. All services including remote vehicle features. Needed data will not work. Alright, so I guess you gotta leave some of those on. So we'll just leave on what's needed so you can use the Ford Pass app. Whatever we can turn off, we'll turn off. So adjust your privacy settings. Ford Assistant. Most of these I just have on. Insurance related data. I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to leave that off. I don't need anybody having any data that's unnecessary. Bluetooth. I mean, when the vehicle's on, Bluetooth is on. But right now I have the vehicle off. So Bluetooth is off. You can turn on your Wi-Fi. This is not turning on the vehicle's Wi-Fi. This is allowing your vehicle to connect to other Wi-Fis. So you would turn this on and you would connect to your Starlink and whatnot. Vehicle hotspot. This is if you're using your vehicle's data. Once you connect to it, everybody else uses its hotspot. And you can always hit information to see. And you can adjust what it looks like and the password. I don't really use this much, like I said again with Starlink, there's just not much use for that. Wireless app projection, I don't really use that much either. And then mobile apps. So mobile apps, quite frankly, there aren't very many mobile apps that will work through Android Auto or CarPlay. The only ones that I've seen so far is Pandora Music. So turn that on, turn it off. Turn it on if you use Pandora. I enjoy using Pandora because, quite frankly, there's not another music service that does what Pandora will do. I've added 100 of my favorite genres and artists, and you're able to just hit shuffle, and it will just shuffle through all of that. There's Google Music, Spotify Music, none of those do that. They will shuffle and play through playlists and specific genres, but not just everything, right? So I like Pandora for that specific reason. And that pretty much covers connectivity. Next up is software. Pretty much basic, just leave automatic software updates on, and it'll let you know whenever it has done a software update, whenever it's done updating. Ford Assistant, haven't really used it too much, but it's basically like Google's Gemini or Apple's Siri. You can have it listen for a wake word and then give it basic commands like call such and such or take me to the nearest location for whatever. Amazon Alexa, I disabled. I don't use it. There's so many other AIs built in with your current devices. I don't need another device listening and consuming more data unnecessarily. Plus, Alexa listens and saves everything on their servers all of the time. Even though all they're trying to do is sell you something, they are storing everything all of the time. Valet mode. This is good for my local Ford dealership will pick up my vehicle and take it in for oil changes, service recalls, and stuff like that. So you can come in here, enter, and configure a 4-digit PIN. This locks all of the driving modes, locks the stereo. It makes it to where they can just get in, take it where they need to go to do whatever they need to do and bring it back, not make any configuration changes to the vehicle. And then once you get back in it, you put in the 4-digit PIN that you programmed it with it, and it unlocks. Each time you use it, you will configure a new 4-digit PIN. It's not like you put one in and you got to remember it for all of time. It's put in a 4-digit PIN and then unlock it the next time, and then you would need to use a new one each time. And I think that pretty much covers all of the settings. And then up here, of course, at the top, you have the camera button, and that takes you to a quick overview. I use this when pulling into parking spots to make sure the tow hitch isn't hanging over or taking up any space, and the person, or I'm not going to back up into anybody with the tow hitch, and I'm inside the lines as well, the parking lines. You can see here the guidelines. So that does come in handy. I use that for parking. And I believe, oh, and then there's this guy over here. This is for the trailer brake. So you would configure how strong the brake force is on the trailer, and then as you're stopping, you can apply the brake for the trailer here. And I believe that covers it. Oh, then there's the overhead. So for the overhead, you have your switches. 1 and 2 are under the hood in the front by the battery. 6 is also over there too. This would be for like your overhead light. These would be for your like ditch light, fog lights and whatnot. And I believe 3 is also up there as well in the front by the front battery. You can also find this in the instruction manual in there. Let's see, where is the instruction manual in here? Yeah, in here in the owner's manual. In the owner's manual, you'll be able to find the exact location for the upfitter switches. 4 and 5 are going to be in the back tailgate, or by the tailgate in the bed of your truck. So this would be for your like chase lights and overhead lights or rock lights. I haven't gotten any lights yet, but plan on it. This would be fog light. This would be ditch light. This would be a front-facing high beam spotlight for high-speed driving, like in the desert, just pointing forward, white light, bright as hell. This would be up on your A-pillars, wide, probably amber, possibly a white. This would be your fog light. This would be not too bright, road safety legal, right? Chase light would be here, I would imagine. This would be rock lights, or maybe, some side lights you have on a rack or something. And this would be a roof rack light, or, front facing, mounted on a rack on the top, And then here is your controls for the rear window. Push in to open, pull down to close, and then your overhead lights. Hey, I appreciate all you guys hanging out, checking out the video all the way to the end. But now that we've gone over all the settings, let's go ahead and get into how I set up my Raptor button, or the R button. So this is what your truck would look like normally, without any of the modes running or anything like that. So to configure it, you basically just set all the settings you want and then hold down the Raptor button until it saves. See, so currently right now with no settings, if I hold it down, it'll just save what I currently have, which would be all of these things here. So your top one that's in normal would be the I guess the driving mode that you're in, whether it be towing, sport, normal, Baja, rock crawling, sand, slippery, that type of stuff. This would be your traction control status. The first press will just kind of halfway turn off traction control, and then you hold it down for a longer amount of time and it will turn off traction control completely. And the next one you have down with the steering wheel, this is to control the amount of force it requires to make steering adjustments. So normal, it's kind of a medium, and then there's a comfort mode, which makes it a lot easier to steer the steering wheel. It's a little bit lighter. And then there's sport mode, which is a more heavier feel to make adjustments to the steering wheel. And then below that, with the strut assembly, is the suspension adjustment. So you have normal, which is kind of a smoother ride, and then sport mode is more kind of like a sports car. It's a lot tighter. You're gonna feel all the bumps in the road. And then off-road status would be a little bit lighter. It's going to adjust and compensate when it can tell that you're off the ground, and then tighten it up once you are about to make impact with the ground. That's part of the active valve in the Fox Live Valve suspension that we have. So I'm going to put it back to normal, and then once I go through all the different options, then I'll go through and let you know how I set it up for my normal daily use. And then under that, you have the exhaust. So you have quiet, which is the valved exhaust is completely closed. You have normal, which is slightly open. Sport, a little more open. And then Baja would be just completely wide open, which is why you get the off-road use only warning for that. All right, let's get back. And then the next one down is the off-road status. All right, so that would be like, you're going to be doing some like Baja off-roading. You would engage that. So let me let you see how I have it set up for my normal everyday use. So first things first, we all pretty much want to turn off auto start stop. So that if you go ahead and turn that off, that will be saved to your Raptor status. So that's a quick way to just go ahead and turn it off and set the truck up the way you want. So the first thing I always do is turn auto start stop off. The next thing would be changing my sport mode, or my driving mode, to sport mode. I just prefer the black gauge cluster, the black and red color scheme. And I also, it's just much more responsive now that I did the Ford ProCal tune. The shifting is much smoother. It's not jerky like it was before in the stock configuration. So if you haven't done the ProCal tune for your Raptor yet, consider doing that. If you think you're having kind of clunky and hard shifts, it definitely smooths that out. Normally, I wouldn't turn off traction control. This is my everyday driving. I'm not off-roading or anything like that. So I would probably just leave it on. But you'll see here, if you hold it down, you'll turn advanced traction control off. And that's fully traction control off. So for the most part, I just leave that on for my normal daily driving. Let's see, the next one down is the steering. I like to have it in comfort steering for normal daily driving. You can figure it how you like. Suspension, I kind of go in between sport mode and comfort. I kind of like sport mode because it's a little bit more responsive and it's a little bit tighter, but you give up a little bit of ride quality. You're gonna feel all the bumps in the road. So I kind of go in between sport and normal. For all intents and purposes, we'll just put it on sport for now. And then the next one down is the exhaust. I keep it on Baja mode for the exhaust, but you will see that you get an alert down here for off-road use only. This is normally where your music track lives. It'll let you know what current track is playing or what radio station is currently playing. So when you have the exhaust in Baja mode, that's going to be on, and you won't be able to see, what is currently playing on the radio, but you can always look at the big ass screen that you have over here and see what's currently playing on the radio. So I don't really look at that as a con too much. And then the off-road status. Let's see. I don't really That one doesn't get used, so I will just leave that. I'm not doing any off-roading or anything like that. This is for just daily drive. This is pretty much how I have it configured for, Monday through Friday, to and from work, running around getting groceries, running errands on the weekends, stuff like that. So to go ahead and save this so that's always usable, just hold down the Raptor button, and now it's saved. And then you will see that whenever you are using the Raptor button, you'll get a little R there. And then you'll see some things like the Raptor logo in the back of the bed of the truck and a couple of the screens with the truck. Let's see, I don't think I have... there you go, tire pressure. Now you're in Raptor mode. Alright, so now I want to go ahead and configure this and change it up for whenever we're heading out to the Texas Raptor Run in a couple of weeks. So I think for that, I would change my drive mode to either Baja or off-road. I think for the Texas Raptor Run and what they do, I'm going to put it in Baja mode. So there, Baja mode. Alright. You see that the mode is in Baja. The traction control has automatically set to a Baja mode, which is not something that you can get to unless you're in Baja mode. So I'm not sure. I would assume that's traction control off, like completely off. And then you have your steering wheel, which is now moved to an off-road mode, which didn't come up before previously when we were moving around the different statuses. You can scroll back a few and you'll see that all we had was a regular, comfort, and sport. And then now exhaust, or no, this is the suspension dampening. We're in off-road, Baja mode for suspension, which makes sense. Exhaust is in Baja, that makes sense. And then it's off-road. Not sure what that is. Oh, there it is. Trail control. Whether or not you have trail control on. I don't think I'm going to be using trail control in this instance. And you can see here on the right, you can set the speed at which you're using trail control. So this comes in handy if you're climbing or descending down hills or elevation. You can kind of just set a specific speed that you want to cruise up the hill or down the hill, and it'll just slowly work your way at that specific speed. That's not something that I imagine we'll be using while we're at the Texas Raptor Run. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Trail control. And then we'll go ahead and save this in preparation for the Texas Raptor Run. And then another setting that I noticed, this was when we were doing Christmas Mountain, and I think I was in rock crawl mode when we were, yeah. So it's automatically shifting to 4 low. Let's see, so shift into neutral. It's doing the rest of the shifting. Now it's going into 4 low. Advanced traction control is off. I can go back into park. Now I'm in rock crawl mode. And you'll see here, it went ahead and engaged the rear locker. And if you needed to, you could engage the front locker from here as well. And another annoying thing to also always turn off if you're off-roading is the parking alert, sensor alert. You'll find that it can be annoying if you're going up or down a steep hill. It thinks that you're going to run into something. And then one of the modes I noticed in rock crawl mode, nope, the steering wheel is the same. It's an off-road steering, which only comes up whenever you are in an off-road or a rock crawl. So that's cool. That's interesting. So we're currently in rock crawl, and I want to get back to the Raptor status, just double tap the R button and you'll see it's going back. I think I need to get into neutral so it can shift out. So let's double tap the Raptor button again. It wouldn't shift out of 4 low unless I was in neutral. So now that I'm in neutral, I can double tap the Raptor button and it will automatically go back to the mode that I had it set at. So you can see it went back to Baja, traction controls at Baja, steering and suspension is on off-road, exhaust is at Baja, and then yeah, that's pretty much how you configure your Raptor button. So you know, these are the options that you have. Select the settings for the current conditions or what you're going to be using it for. Hold down the Raptor button and it'll save your settings. Well, alright guys, if you guys made it all the way to the end and you found this useful and informative, please give the channel a like and subscribe. We just hit 200 subscribers, so that's a huge win for us, and we're trying to get to 500 subs so that we could, you know, start monetizing and using some of that YouTube money to help fund more projects and videos for you all. All right guys, thank you for checking out the video. Have a great weekend. Later.